Shotgun Saturday Night aired at midnight live, and of course, before that, years earlier, in the early 80s, and before that, obviously, but it ended really in the early 80s, WWF television aired in New York on Channel 9 late night. It was a late night show. You had to stay up if you were a kid to see it. What is, to the best of your knowledge, because I'm trying to think of examples, what are examples of wrestling companies that were actually successful, but only had television 11 p.m. or later?
Probably that one. And see, that's so bizarre to me because, growing up as a kid, but it was like that really everywhere in the South and Southeast and Texas and even the Midwest. Wrestling was always on daytimes on weekends. And that's at a time when each market only had 3 or 4 television stations. Some, as a matter of fact, Lexington, Kentucky only had 2 television stations, I think, till 1970. But anyway, I digress. Lance Russell made it popular with the Memphis show on Saturday mornings because most times all wrestling, roller derby, any other syndicated hour programs that the television stations carried were on afternoons or evenings on Saturday or Sunday in those days. You'd have to go back to network television days and the early days of television, late 40s, early 50s, to find a lot of weeknights. But back then there was wrestling on every night and they broadcast wrestling workouts. But really it was weekend afternoons and evenings. And then Lance, especially in Memphis and a lot of other territories, started doing it when it worked on Saturday mornings, which they'd primarily thought was kids programming. Then a lot of them did that, but you have to have an incredible population center. I don't know what the time was like in Los Angeles. I know Chicago usually had pretty good television in its glory days as a wrestling city, from what I remember. But even like Indianapolis, I used to watch Bruiser's show at 2:00 in the morning on Channel 4 because that's what would come in here in Louisville when Channel 3 went off the air, but they had a stronger TV on, I believe, Saturday or Sunday afternoon on Channel 6 that I couldn't get at all and would never have known was there. So that was Channel 4 was their smaller station repeat of the same show. You had to have a big population center to have a late night fringe time slot and still do good house show business because there's nobody watching TV most places after 11 o'clock or midnight. Especially in those days, in the territory days, because remember, well, Brian, are you old enough? When I was a kid until the late 70s, every TV station in town signed off between 12:30 and 2 a.m. and didn't come back on until 5:30 or 6 the next day.
You know what? I don't. And again, New York's.
But you've always lived in New York.
Yeah, but the only thing I remember with that is cable. When Nickelodeon, when I was a kid in the early 80s, Nickelodeon would sign off the air at 8 p.m. and then it would be like an hour of local.
Oh, no, this was.
No, I know what it is. It's just I never got to experience that.
Well, and here's the thing. I remember because it was, I believe it was the blizzard of 78 when Louisville got like 2 feet of snow dumped on it and was closed for. Pretty much everything was closed. No mail, no nothing for a week. One of the TV stations started staying on all night, Cabin Fever Theater, showing movies. And then the other ones followed. So until I was almost basically legally able to vote and shit, TV did not stay on all night. So after 2 o'clock in the morning, you were pretty much fucked until the next day, except for a radio. So it would be a New York or a Los Angeles or a huge population center where you could get by with having running successful live events in those days and still only having TV late at night. It just wouldn't work anywhere else.